Good morning, this is Maggie Pagano from the IB Times reporting from outside Westminster after one of the most exciting nights that I think many of us experienced for many years. With me are Stefan and Ed Shing, who are here to talk about just how shocked, delighted, surprised they were by last night. Stefan.
Well, quite a remarkable night. It reminds me, of course, of 1992 when the polls were pointing in one direction and then the results come in and it's something completely different. And we're still, this morning, still trying to come to terms with it, I think, doing the maths and wondering exactly what's happened. There seem to be these famous silent Tories, people who say that they don't know or that they're undecided, and perhaps all along, deep down, they know they are going to be voting Conservative.
What I find interesting and maybe a little bit shocked at, actually, is when you add the UKIP vote and the Tory vote together, you're pretty much at 50% of the entire populace, including Scotland.
Yeah, no, that is astonishing, isn't it? To your mind, as economists, both of you, do you think it was that the people have not forgiven the Labour Party for what they did last time? Do you think that was the defining decision?
I think, Maggie, it's more of there was a shift to the left in terms of Labour's stated economic policy, and I think ultimately people were nervous about that. Yeah. They'd say, whatever you say about the Conservatives, they occupy the middle ground. We sort of know what they're going to do. They're a known quantity. I think Labour, certainly with this subtle shift to the left under Ed Balls, was a bit more of an unknown quantity, and I think that unnerved people.
Well, I think credibility is the key thing. Not sure how left-wing Labour really was. Its supporters on the left say it was not nearly left-wing enough. It wasn't arguing for rail renationalisation or raising income tax or anything like that. So in conventional terms, not that left-wing. But of course the symbolism of Ed Balls losing its seat, very tough for him personally, in a way that will stand for the night. The party, after 5 years, is still not considered ready to be back in government.
Talking about great losses, what about, well, Lib Dems overall, but particularly Vince Cable, who has actually, I think, by all standards, been an excellent business secretary.
He's a very serious guy. He's a first-class brain. I hope he's still got a contribution to make. But yes, the Lib Dems, all the Lib Dem ministers, with the exception of Clegg and Norman Lamb, have lost their seats, and it's absolutely devastating for them as a party, and a warning, I think, to people who become the smaller party in a coalition.
Now the big question, now we have certainty, will be the referendum on Europe. And people I was talking to last night were already getting their plans out ready for battle. Do you think, Ed, that Cameron will go ahead with a referendum? And how do you think he's going to play it?
I think it's going to be touch and go, because clearly, even if he has a majority, it's going to be wafer thin, and we're still not too sure about how the new Tory MPs who've not sat in Parliament before, how they're going to feel about Europe. Because okay, we know how UKIP feel, we know how the right-wing part of the Conservative Party feel. These new Tory MPs, are they centre, right or left of the Conservative Party?
It's another way in which it's an echo of 1992. There's Tory euphoria this morning, but on the EU, on Scotland, and Cameron's future as a leader, these are all very big questions and will play out over the next few weeks and months.
Yeah. Now, we haven't talked about Scotland. SNP, massacre of Labour Party. Yeah. What does it mean? We've got 56 MPs now in Westminster. Will they call for another referendum?
What I would suggest they would do is force the government to give them everything that they claim to have with Devo Max. They say, we want Devo Max to the max with the capital M-A-X. And they want to make absolutely sure they get more than their fair share of Britain's GDP.
Yes, that's right. They're in a very, very strong position. They've also got the Holyrood elections next year. So the SNP have to punch their weight in London, in Westminster now, in advance of what they will hope will be another big win next year, which will be the foundation for calling for another referendum for independence. I mean, the State of the Union this morning is very, very shaky indeed, I'm afraid. Not tomorrow, not next week, but in 5 or 10 years, another referendum, very likely indeed.
Now, the impact on the city and the economy, Ed, we've seen FTSE's up, sterling has recovered a lot of the lost ground. We know markets, they're fickle, but do you think they're going to carry on rising?
No. I think this is a little bit of optimism, a little bit of recovery of lost ground in the short term, but I would agree with Stefan that there are a number of uncertainties, notably about Europe, which will weigh. I also think there are some very big questions still about the UK economy. We can talk about full employment, but frankly, what sorts of jobs have we got? We have a massive skills gap to fill. We need higher tech jobs. How is the government going to address that? We simply don't know right now.
Ed, do you think that Cameron can go to Brussels and can negotiate, and it's going to be Angela Merkel who is the important one, and get a deal that is palatable?
I think he may get some nominal concessions, but to see wide-ranging concessions I find very difficult to believe. I don't see, well, why should the EU bend to Britain yet again?
How do you think the business community is going to respond to this? Do you think we're going to see them coming out fighting
I think
to
so.
keep us in?
I think
in a
so.
way?
You saw that in the leaders of some of the newspapers, like the Independent and the FT in particular, saying, the Conservatives' position on the European Union is really wrong-headed, even though in the end they came around to supporting the coalition.
Yeah,
of course, they haven't got the coalition,
No.
they've got just the Conservatives.
And Ed Miliband, who will replace him?
I think the temptation will be to go for someone solid, Labour, old school, and that is, I think, a great danger because that clearly didn't work. Is that sort of like an election of Neil Kinnock? Are we moving more to the left, further away from where Labour really need to be?
I think Alan Johnson is having far too much fun to
Yeah.
go back into leading the
He's
Labour
enjoying
Party.
all
But the
these
names that
late
you will
night
hear
shows, yeah.
are Andy Burnham, Chuka
Yeah.
Muna,
I was gonna say
Yvette
Chuka.
Cooper, and Dan Jarvis, who's the new MP in Yorkshire and sort of quite an exciting figure with an interesting background. And I wouldn't place any money on anybody this morning.
Well, thank you very much, Stefan and Ed, for joining us, and maybe see you in 5 years' time. So thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.